Okay. And we are live for a new episode of the Electric Podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host. And as usual, I'm joined by Seth Winchild, who just did a little bit of a mistake here, which
Sorry, we're late.
I need to admit I didn't catch it either, but we've been talking to each other for 12 minutes thinking we were live and we weren't. It's the first time that this ever happened. But yeah, so we're going to have to jump back into. Oh, I'm even going to have to stop the screen chaining here and go back here. So sorry about that, guys. Yeah, I was saying that there was no comments either. Like I was like, oh, this is weird. The way people are commenting by now. Now we are live and nothing's happening. You can hear us. That's good. That's good. We are back
That's a good
live now.
sign.
You can definitely hear us. Let me just pull up the page real quick because I want to relaunch the show properly this time. By the way, my microphone, I don't know if you guys are hearing me fine too, because I'm traveling right now, and I broke my travel microphone through my travels over the last week, and now I had to buy a cheap one.
It looks pretty sweet though. It's got the pink and red and RGB
Yeah,
colors. So
a little RGB on it, but like that's not what you want from a microphone. You want good sound. You don't want RGB on it. This episode of the Electric Podcast is brought to you by SAE International. Join the global mobility community in Detroit from April 18th to the 20th for WCX, the largest technical mobility event in North America. You can register now to attend the event. In the show notes, we have a link for it, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it later on in the show. But now let's jump in. And it's such a bummer, guys, because I feel like we just had.
we had a very lively conversation about it.
Yeah, we had a very great conversation about the first piece of news, which I think is a very important piece of news today that came out this week, really, that it's the announcement of Tesla opening up the Supercharger network to non-Tesla electric vehicles, which is something that we knew was coming, but there's been the waters were murkier in the last few months because of Tesla's announcement that they want to make their proprietary chargers the new national North American, I should say, standard. And so that like threw some cold water on the actual opening of the network. And obviously it was supposed to happen last year and it didn't happen. So that also like created some concerns. But now it was made official in a sort of a weird way too, in a White House announcement that it was made official. The White House announced that, well, I'm going to read the announcement here because that's the information that we got, other than another quick announcement from Tesla on the timing of the opening. But this is the meat of it. So let me read it for you guys. Yeah, again, direct from the White House. Tesla, for the first time, will open a portion of its U.S. Supercharger and destination charger network to non-Tesla EV, making at least 7,500 chargers available for all EVs by the end of 2024. So 7,500, that's for all EVs. It's not just a Supercharger network, destination network. It's the, I guess, new stations or existing one being retrofitted for it that's going to be deployed within the next 2 years. The open charger will be distributed across the United States, obviously. They will include at least 3,500 new and existing 250 kilowatt superchargers along highway corridors to expand freedom of travel for all EVs. So that's specifically for the new supercharger and existing one being retrofitted for CCS. Basically, that's what they're saying. And CCS being the standard connector for all electric vehicle in North America other than Tesla vehicles right now. And level 2 destination charging at locations like hotels, restaurants, and urban and rural locations. So that one's interesting because Tesla already does that a lot when they deployed level 2 wall connectors at hotels and restaurants and other places. Most often than not, they will also include a normal J1772 connector that all other AVs can use, at least one, sometimes more than one. It's just like kind of a goodwill thing, I guess. All EV drivers will be able to access the station using the Tesla app or website. Not sure why they mentioned the website here because I think everything's going to be through the app. Additionally, Tesla will more than double its full nationwide network of supercharger manufactured in Buffalo, New York. So that's the other big part of the announcement here. So even though the timing is not clear of it, it sounds like the timing is also for 2024. And we're going to get into that in a second. But yeah, like I think earlier this week said when this came out, you called it like the biggest announcement in the EV market in North America this year so far.
Yeah, as somebody who drives a Tesla and a non-Tesla EV, having access to the supercharger network kind of changes my like outlook on driving the Chevy Bolt around. Though, truthfully, I'm probably not going to drive too often uh, on long trips with the Bolt when I have a Tesla. But that's for other people who don't have a Tesla, that's probably going to change their long distance travel, um, ideas quite a bit. But there's a lot to this announcement. One of the things I think about is in Europe, we've seen, when a Porsche Taycan, for instance, pulls into a supercharger, the charging port isn't located at the same side. So they have to pull in either perpendicular or like they have to kind of stretch the cord to reach their location. I wonder if Tesla is going to do anything to address this, because it will probably cause some issues. What are your thoughts
Yeah,
there?
you're right. And Tesla is notorious for having the Tesla superchargers are notorious for having short cables compared to Electrify America and other network, especially in Europe, like Ionity, where they take a solution where the base of the cable is much higher and much longer, which give you a lot more maneuverability. But yeah, there's solutions to that, and we've seen Tesla in Europe, where, like you said, they're already starting to open the supercharger network to other EVs. We've seen them not necessarily release superchargers with longer cables, but they are designing the parking spots differently. So it's more like right now when you get to a supercharger, normally they are all lined up in one row, the superchargers, or maybe two rows, one on each side. And now it's more like in the middle of a parking lot with side by side supercharger, so you can pull in on one side or the other side, um, either forward or reversed, and you can use either of those chargers on one side. So it does potentially create a problem for the other side, but you have less chance to do so. So it's like I guess it's the most efficient way to try to curb that problem, not completely, but at least to a portion. A longer cable would definitely be the solution, and we know that this is coming with Supercharger 4.0, or V4, I guess. That version 4 of the Supercharger. It is a little bit taller, and the cable is on the outside at the top, making it longer too. So that's going to be part of the solution, I think, too.
Yeah. So, some other things to think about, like exactly how many and where the superchargers are. Do you think Tesla's going to be strategic about this, or is the government going to be in charge? Hopefully not, of which chargers get allocated to regular EVs, because, obviously, some Tesla superchargers are already pretty much full. Theoretically, they'll build those out more, but um, what do you think? Do you think the government's pretty much figured out which chargers they want to use, or
I don't know how granular the government's going to be involved in that. I mean, I think in the announcement, they sort of point to the fact that they want to cover the highway corridors for freedom and travel. So I think that's already what the supercharger does, basically. So I don't think that's going to be an issue that much. I think that the main thing is going to be achieving that 7,500 chargers total, 3,500 superchargers specifically, open to all EVs. And Tesla can do that obviously by adding all new stations with the. We know that the solution is going to be what they call the magic duck, which is basically the receptor of the proprietary, excuse me, Tesla connector. But at the same time, if you pull both the receptor and the connector, it becomes a CCS adapter, which you can plug right to your non-Tesla EV. So either they can retrofit some station to that, or some chargers at existing stations, I mean, or build brand new ones with that solution. And that's the name of the game here, because I know that a lot of Tesla owners are concerned right now about adding more traffic to the network, more electric vehicles to the network, where considering that there's already places that are EV trafficked with especially during holiday travels. So you don't want to add to that problem. But let's be clear, this announcement came as part of the guidance for the distribution of the $7 billion that the federal government is investing in charging infrastructure. So this opening of the network was a requirement for Tesla to get access to that money. And obviously, Tesla having access to that money is a big deal, because if we go purely by market share, they should get the majority of that money if it makes sense. I think it's going to probably be more fairly distributed in order to encourage more third-party network and a little bit more balance in the market that Tesla already dominates. So yeah, like Tesla is going to be using that money to increase the capacity a lot, not just for non-Tesla EVs that are being onboarded right now, but also for existing Tesla owners. So if this is done right, and so far, I mean, there's been hiccups for sure. Tesla has done extremely right with the supercharger network. It should be good for everyone involved, in my opinion. And
Yeah, and
not only,
we were talking
yeah.
about this last time before we hit the record button. But like, it's not just Tesla drivers that are nervous about, what does this mean for my experience? It's also Tesla investors who are saying, hey, we're getting rid of one of the best moats that Tesla has. But, our kind of contention is that you're not just giving it up. You're actually adding a revenue stream, and Tesla is kind of going to be the best name in town for electric vehicle charging, which is, probably a marketing plus. Like, next time you're going shopping for an EV and you've been charging a Tesla's network and it works 100 times better than the rest, then maybe you're thinking Tesla first. I don't know. What do you think?
There's so many, like, I understand that there's a big advantage to it's been a reason so far for the longest time, myself included, to buy a Tesla vehicle over another EV because of the supercharger network. So giving that up by onboarding other electric vehicles on the network, it's a big deal. You're giving that up for sure. But there's, like anything, there's pros and cons, and that's the only con in that list. And again, from an investor standpoint here, because I think, like, at Electrek, we're just trying to, like, play devil's advocate and look from the standpoint of an investor here, because in terms of the mission to accelerate the advent of electric vehicles, for sure it's good. So, like, let's get past that right away. From a business standpoint, though, that is the only con. Then the pros, like you said, there's the marketing aspect to it, because now very quickly, depending on how fast they open the network, because like they said 7,500 by 2024, but Tesla said that they're going to start soon, open the first few select stations. So it's going to be a gradual ramp up, obviously. But every time that, again, soon enough, probably most of the long distance charging for electric vehicles is going to be done at supercharger station. And when you have your non-Tesla electric vehicles showing up, and you have a bunch of Tesla vehicles around going on a network that is so far by far the best, you're going to start thinking twice about, okay, maybe my next car should be a Tesla. If they're getting this right, they might be getting the whole EV thing right. So that is one, though I wouldn't say necessarily the biggest advantage from an investor standpoint. The biggest one is, like, Tesla's going to own a massive market share of electric vehicle charging, which I know for the longest time they've been saying that they don't want to make supercharger network a profit center, but that is obviously changing now with opening up to other EVs. Like, it makes no sense not to. We always knew, even though it hasn't been a profitable business right now, we always knew that EV charging is going to be big business, and most likely than not, like, a profitable business, especially once we get more control over the peak power charges that are plaguing the industry right now. But with the deployment of energy storage at the stations, we were starting to address that issue in a big way.
That's a great point. They're also hitting Tesla's other strong points, where they have the battery, they have the energy network, they have
Solar.
their solar power walls. Like, it's just kind of made for Tesla at this point.
And I was thinking that when we were talking earlier offline, I don't know if Tesla can get access, because obviously they're going to get access to a few $billions here, I would think. I don't know if they can use that to deploy energy storage at the stations here, but we know that the government in the infrastructure bill separate from the EV infrastructure part of the money coming in. You have subsidies also for energy storage. So Tesla is going to be subsidized to deploy energy storage at charging station, and that's like let's make this clear. It's not if it will or if it won't happen. Like energy storage is going to be at charging stations all over the world, all over the US, because it's not a natural way to use energy I mean, there's been peak power charges, peak power demand going through the industry for a long time, but not to the degree of how a supercharger or a charging station works, just because of the way the traffic flows and the way the way a charging station works. Sometimes you can have like no EV, sometimes you can have one or two EVs, or sometimes you can have all 50 charging station charging all at the same time. So the peak power difference versus the average output is so wildly different than the rest of the electric grid that it creates these giant demand charges. And if you can just like every single person that you can shave off the top, it's giant money, like big business we're talking about here. So yeah, it's gonna happen. It's gonna be all over the place. And like you said, that's plays right into Tesla's strength of having already being the leader in energy storage.
In fact, we know that Electrify America is using Tesla
Yeah.
energy storage. So it's not even just Tesla's own network. They can probably make a few bucks off of the other charging networks as well.
Yeah, that's happening too. That's a fair point. So yeah, this is very exciting news. Basically, what we wanted to see happen, and hopefully this happens on time. We know that Tesla has made some claims before in terms of the
Everything.
Everything, but specifically about the pace of deployment of the network. Like they talked about doubling the network a few times before. But oh yeah, I didn't mention that. I tried to make sure that I mentioned everything that we mentioned offline while we were alive. I'm working on a story right now where Tesla just posted a ton of new jobs, all related to the charging network deployment, energy storage too at the same time, because they're both like closely linked. Like if you deploy also they can be literally deployed at the same location, like we just discussed, but you need a lot of people just going through the planning. It's the planning of the supercharger, of a supercharger station, that it takes a lot of time, because you need to coordinate. You need to build the chargers. You need to ship it to electricians to install it, and then you need to coordinate with the electric utility. You need to find a property where to install it. You need to get a deal with the property owner to like some kind of lease, a long-term lease to have it. A deal on the maintenance. Then you have to build it, like I said, normally with contractors, local contractors. And then you have to have that deal with the electric utility to supply that power. So there's a lot that go into it. That's why you see a lot of like supercharger station that start getting built up, and people in the region, Tesla owners in the region, get excited, but then nothing happens for like 2 years. So that's why. But now Tesla is hiring. I didn't get the whole count, but there's dozens, if not 100, new postings to hire people. So I think this is going to happen pretty fast right now. So this is exciting. And we reported just a few months ago that Tesla had a big ramp up in Canada too for supercharger station designer and planners. So exciting stuff happening.
Yep, absolutely.
Other exciting stuff, though, a little bit worrying for current Tesla owner, is the new self-driving hardware for computer that has leaked this week, giving us a lot more information about the entire new hardware for suite of sensor with the new computer. So it comes thanks to, of course, Green the Only, infamous Tesla hacker and tinkerer. He somehow got his hand on the whole board, the whole computer. Someone sent it to him, like, hey, check this out. So obviously we're not going to go into the details of who sent it and whatnot, but you can I think you can put two and two together. And Green basically did a whole teardown of it to give us more information. Just an interesting side note, we know that it came from a Model X. And at the same time, we reported this week that Tesla has been liquidating all Model X display vehicles, which is very early for Tesla in the quarter to do that. Normally it happens in the last few weeks of the quarter. Now we're just midway through. So it could indicate that the Tesla is just completely getting rid of any inventory Model X, because there's already the new car being produced or with hardware 4.0, and that could be announced March 1st at the event, Investor Day event, potentially. But that computer is going to be for all vehicles that are going to be equipped with hardware 4, and we got a lot of interesting information for it. First of all, the bomber, like you see in these pictures here, the form factor is a lot different, which makes it not retrofittable. Something that Elon already hinted to, that not likely to happen, just based on cost and complexity. But so obviously this is a big concern for everyone that already has a Tesla vehicle with hardware 3, because Tesla has been promising self-driving capacity on that forever and hasn't delivered on it, and now they are upgrading to a whole new suite of hardware. And where a lot of people are thinking, okay, does that mean that we'll never get self-driving on our cars? And Elon has recently said that no, that it's just going to improve the performance, but they still plan to deliver self-driving on hardware 3. But that's what Elon says, and Elon has says a lot of things about self-driving that hasn't panned out yet, so take it with a grain of salt. You have the new board here. That's the infotainment, because Tesla has combined, of course, the self-driving computer with the infotainment computer. They did that last time too. Green noted some rework on the infotainment unit, with the GPU is now on the same board, so no more GPU daughter board. This make the whole unit thinner, otherwise no change, so it's still the same 256G NVMe6 and 16 gig of RAM. Same AMD CPU and GPU, so they're sticking with AMD for the infotainment system. So as for the actual hardware 4 computer, also known as the self-driving computer, you have a lot less improvement than many hope for, I guess primarily than Green hope for. So still a Samsung Exynos IP-based CPU bump core from 12 to 20, so I guess that's pretty good. That's decent improvement. I don't know why we were expecting a lot more than that. 5 clusters of 4 core each, maximum of 2.35 gigahertz. Adults at 1.37 gigahertz. Number of trip cores increased from 2 to 3, 2.2 gigahertz max frequency. Also 2x. Okay, there's 2 chip system on chip per board. So that's the main thing that actually is the improvement with this. A lot of redundancy improvements that is noted by Green on the new computer, and obviously that's important when you have a self-driving car. It's the brain of the self-driving car. So if your brain shut down while you're driving, it's not good. It's the same for self-driving.
Is the second SoC like a redundant SoC, or is it like if one of
That's
them?
There's 2 on 2 boards, so that my understanding is like 2 of them are like the redundancy ones.
Got it.
On the downside of it, Green noted that the power requirements are higher, even twice higher at idle. So that's obviously not good, because that affects your efficiency. That has been a big concern for electric vehicles going self-driving for a while, because you want to get as much efficiency as possible to get much range as possible with the smaller battery pack. And any kind of electronics inside a vehicle will affect that, and a computer has decent power requirements, especially a powerful computer like a self-driving one. And Tesla was supposed to be like their main focus, is like keeping the power consumption down. Appears that it's not necessarily the case with this one. Or at least it's just when it's idle. I don't know, like when the power consumption is like when the unit is like working max power, if it's not as bad. But we'll see once we get it in our car working, maybe. Okay, we discussed the redundancy already. Okay, now the sensor. So obviously he only has the computer, but with the connectors on the computer, you can sort of do the math and know exactly what kind of sensors you're going to have with the hardware 4. And so we knew that there was going to be some changes to the cameras with the filing that Tesla did in China. We know that like the front-facing cameras went from 3 to 2, but we didn't know exactly. We suspected that Tesla was going to add cameras because on hardware 3 there are some blind spots, and now Green found 12 connectors for cameras on the on the board, but 12, one being marked as spare, which I don't know exactly why you would need a spare on this. So maybe there's going to be retrofit in the future. It's not clear because you don't like if something breaks, it's probably like it's unless it's really the connector that breaks, but I don't know how often that would happen. But yeah, that would point to 11 cameras, and it's confirmed that the front facing one went from 3 to 2. Then there's something called the SVC camera that it's not clear what it means because he's just reading off of like the code that's coming down from the computer. But according to Tesla's EPC, which is the catalog, the parts catalog, SVC is bumper cover. So if it's an SVC camera, it would make sense that it would be a camera that goes inside the bumper. So that would be a big deal because that would cover some of the blind spot here. So there's a huge blind spot. Okay, I'm quoting Green here. There's a huge blind spot up front on Legacy car. Welcome to the Legacy camp, plate owners. So front bumper camera and 2 in the rear. So that's his assumption right now. So one front bumper, 2 in the rear and the bumper corners.
Any more inside?
Well, I mean, I think that would leave one space for one inside. You just need one for like driver monitoring, but yeah, it adds up. So basically, all the current cameras minus one up front. Well, I mean, now the new one up front is going to be the one in the bumper, I guess. So it's still 3 front-facing camera, but 1 in the bumper, 2 in the windshield, and 2 new rear bumper cameras. But again, not confirmed. That's just like speculation based on the code here. Also, a new GPS model, a tri-band antenna for the GPS module based on the computer. A radar connector too, so confirmed that the radar is coming. And we just saw today that the FCC actually released some images of the radar. So it is the very high resolution radar that we've been talking for a while. It is kind of a bummer because Tesla was very clear about, we don't need a radar to deliver on self-driving. And then now, they removed it in 2019, and now they're bringing it back. So it's a pretty confusing situation. They were all in on like, it's going to be vision only. We only need the cameras. Now they're not. No, actually, we're going to need some one radar too. But Elon told us in June of 2020 that the probability of safety will be higher with pure vision than vision plus radar, which debatable so far, at least, not lower. But vision, that's not the quote that I wanted. Actually, I guess he said, but a very high resolution radar would be better than just pure vision. So basically, he was saying Tesla was waiting for a better radar in order to potentially bring it back. He said, continued, but such a radar does not exist. Again, that was in 2020. 2021, excuse me. I mean, vision with high-res radar would be better than pure vision. So that's why he's doing it. And again, we work with Green around that time too on a new code in Tesla system that we thought was linked not to a consumer vehicle, but a test vehicle from Tesla. So Green reveals a lot of information about Tesla vehicles, Tesla product, based on the software update. So if you see a software update that can apply to any Tesla vehicle, it can sometimes apply to an actual consumer vehicle, but sometimes it's also just a prototype that Tesla is testing. And at that time, we saw Tesla was stating a 4D imaging high-resolution radar with twice the range of at that time, the radar that Tesla was using. It was called the Phoenix radar, so we thought it was linked to an Israeli company called ARB, I think. And now it looks like this is indeed the radar that Tesla is adding based on the images that were released today. ARB or RB, I guess. But yeah, so this is what we know so far about hardware 4. And just today, we saw images of Tesla Semi and Cybertruck prototypes being tested with a lidar sensor. But don't get too excited. Tesla is not hiding lidar sensor. Lidar, which stands for light detection and ranging. It's basically a laser-based sensor. And most companies working on self-driving vehicles are betting on this technology to deliver on their promises. Not Tesla, even though they are using it there on the Cybertruck that was spotted yesterday in Palo Alto. Same thing for the Tesla Semi, thanks to the kilowatts that spotted it. And this is generally used for what they call ground truthing, which is basically calibrating and confirming the data that their sensor get by using another sensor, in this case, a lidar sensor. So we've seen other like Tesla vehicle, like a Model S and X, with basically strapped with lidar sensors on top. I assume this is the same thing they're trying to do here, but doing it with the Tesla Semi, which Tesla, even though they are delivering the production version of the vehicle since December, they haven't talked at all about autopilot or self-driving capacity for that truck. So I assume that they're still finalizing the capacity on that, and this prototype is now validating the data for the autopilot. I don't think Tesla's gonna want to venture into self-driving for the Tesla Semi just yet, but I would expect an announcement on that soon. And the Cybertruck, obviously, it's coming to production very soon. So it's going to have hardware 4. So Tesla is most likely here validating hardware 4 using the lidar sensor on the prototype. So that's what's happening.
We should probably put the context of Elon's statement about visual versus radar in context here. And interestingly, I was looking back through our Twitter conversations with Elon, and I noticed like the last thing we talked about was his feelings on lidar versus just pure visual, or radar versus pure visual.
Before he blocked us.
That's right.
We're on block now. Yay! It's cause to celebrate. All right. Moving on. This was a big story this week in the mainstream media, but I really don't see why it's big at all. So the big headline is Tesla is recalling all vehicles that have full self-driving beta on it.
You're supposed to do the quotes when you say recall.
Yeah, recalling, because it's the fix to it is a software update, so they're not actually bringing the car back to the dealership, or I should say the Tesla store. It's not really a dealership. And a lot of people have been using, because in the recall notice it says because it may cause a crash. So a lot of media have been using the headline low. Tesla says that their FSD Beta may cause a crash, so they are voluntarily recalling it. Tesla is not saying that. It's NHTSA saying that. The regulators are saying that. And Tesla made it clear in the defect notice that they don't agree with NHTSA. They are doing it because it sounds like they had no choice, even though it's a voluntary recall. And this, where things gets really weird, is that it's not clear what the fix is. So let's read the summary of the notice here, because it is pretty wild when you think about it. Because we knew that it might be coming at some point, but not exactly in what form. So Tesla is recalling certain 2016, 2023 Model S, Model X 2017-23, Model 3 2023, same for Model Y. Vehicles equipped with full self-driving beta software are pending installation. So everyone that has FSD or is about to have it, the FSD beta system may allow the vehicle to act unsafe around intersections, such as traveling straight through an intersection while in a turn-only lane, entering a stop sign control intersection without coming to a complete stop, or proceeding into an intersection during a steady yellow traffic signal without due caution. In addition, the system may respond insufficiently to changes in posted speed limits, or not adequately account for the driver's adjustment of the vehicle's speed to exceed posted speed limits. So all these concerns, I've experienced personally on Tesla FSD Beta, and so we kind of know this is not like, it's not like a classic defect where like they did something wrong here. It's like they know this happens. They're just trying to improve the system so that it doesn't happen eventually, which leads to the fix. So like, what is the actual fix here? And the remedy, like they call it in the recall world, Tesla will deploy an over-the-air OTA software update at no cost to the customer. The OTA update, which which we expect to deploy in the coming weeks, will improve how FSD Beta negotiates certain driving maneuvers during the condition described above. Description that I just gave you guys. So basically, they're just saying that they're gonna improve on the current version of FSD Beta, which is what they try to do with every single update. So the recall is basically Tesla pushing the next FSD Beta update. That's all it is. So it's not really a recall. It's
But does Tesla have any obligation to prove that it's any more safe than the version?
well, I mean, if it does, if it's not, what's gonna happen? It's the same thing. Like that's what's gonna basically now going forward. Every new FSD Beta update is gonna be a recall, because unless it's perfect, until it's perfect, or as perfect as it gets, I guess.
But what if
That's
NHTSA is like, hey, this software is not good enough, like it's still causing accidents?
I mean, if NHTSA is the one testing it first, I guess that would make sense, but it doesn't sound like that's what is happening here.
Right.
And just for some context too, like the Tesla posted like the chronology of the event, and basically starting on January 25th is when they reached out to Tesla saying like, hey, we have like major concern with FSD Beta for all the reasons mentioned above. And then Tesla met with NHTSA a bunch of times until February 7th, so last week or week and a half ago, when they decided to do the voluntary recall. And then Tesla said on February 7, 2023, while not concurring with the agency's analysis, Tesla decided to administer a voluntary recall out of an abundance of caution. So really, it sounds like a kind of just a moral victory, like or from NHTSA, or just like we're watching you guys in the FSD Beta, so be careful because you're gonna have to call every next update a recall if it goes continue that way.
So I do think it's a bigger deal than maybe you think, but well, backing up a little bit, I don't think it should be called a recall. Like I agree with everybody who, even Elon, who says, calling it a recall implies that you would have to go into the dealership to get an update, or have a mobile service person come out and deal with your car. So I think it should be called like a mandatory patch or software patch or whatever. But the fact that they're getting involved with full self-driving and actually setting a bar, to me, it kind of feels like the beginning of a longer term, like, hey, you guys have to prove that this is improving. Because sometimes you get an update and it's worse. Like, people said that the early versions of full self-driving that I didn't have and you didn't have, I don't think, were more daring and wouldn't slow down through intersections and stuff like that. So the fact that they're getting involved here, kind of like it feels like to me that NHTSA being involved with FSD is not a good thing for Tesla. It feels like,
but just to make it clear, there was already an ongoing investigation from NHTSA on FSD Beta, and it's still ongoing. So this is not like the fix to that investigation. This is just this. It looks like it's NHTSA like exploring, can we use a defect notice to do something about FSD Beta more than anything? And then Tesla just like doing their best. Tesla lawyers doing their best, like to keep that away at least for a few weeks. It sounded like, or a week and a half, and then be like, you know what? Let's just do the voluntary recall and call it the next update. Basically, like that's just what it sounds to me.
Yeah, but is NHTSA going to be okay with that?
Yeah, so that's the thing. So that might be just kicking the can down the road. But I mean, that has been the FSD program since the beginning, kicking the can down the road. Like it's just like, all right, like this is coming this time. I'm like, no, but no, we're still working on it and all that. So I don't see how this is major, considering that the NHTSA investigation into FSD is still ongoing. So like this is still the bigger deal. I think this is more like NHTSA like trying to do something through a defect notice, and honestly, I don't see a major impact to it, even though it crashed Tesla stock the other day.
I don't think it was crashed. Went down a few percentage points that it wasn't down before.
Yeah, still significant.
It definitely affected it. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. For me, it feels like the beginning of something bigger, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right. In the better news for Tesla, we reported this week that Tesla is sold out of the Model Y for build slots in this quarter. So the next build slots are opening up in April. So that means that new vehicle build for the Model Y in the US is not available until April. So Tesla is sold out for the quarter, basically. Other than some inventory vehicle that are built in batches and made available later in the quarter, but that's far and few and generally move pretty fast. So this is good news for Tesla. It means that the price drops are working in the US. Not only the price drop, but also it's the $7,500 tax credit is also having an impact, especially as a kind of an urgency thing, because there's a chance that it won't be fully available on Model Y starting in April because of the new battery requirement guidances that are expected to come next month. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. We won't know until the guidances come out. So just a little tidbit of information on that. But while the Model Y and to a degree the Model 3 too are selling very well right now, Model S and X they're a little bit more difficult to move, and Tesla has launched a new program this week to try to help that, especially targeting older owners of older Model S and X vehicle. I keep saying like older Model S and X owner, which makes it sound like it's just old people owning the cars. So it's not. It's
discount.
Yeah, it's not a senior discount. It's a discount if you have, like, for me, like I'm not a senior person, but I have a Model S that's a 2012, and it has unlimited supercharging, which is what Tesla is targeting here. And it sounds like Tesla also just wants to take all unlimited supercharger vehicle off the road because some people have been abusing that.
Well, so it's not abuse if you went into it knowing.
Yeah, no. You're right. You're definitely right. It's not abuse, but it's. I think Tesla might see it as a problem to some degree because let's say the unlimited supercharging on my Model S is there's some people that have used it on their own car, like maybe like 100x, 150x more than me.
Right.
So it's a major difference. So for like they made money on the unlimited supercharger on my Model S. On some other Model S, they didn't make money off of that.
Right. And if you have unlimited, you just go whenever you want. You don't go like high demand time. Sure, why not? Who cares?
Who cares? So yeah, what they're doing is that if you trade in your Model S or X with unlimited supercharging, you get an extra $5,000 off your trade-in for a new Model S and X. Not off your trade, an extra, like whatever value of your car was as a trade-in, you get $5,000 extra. So it reduced their cost of purchasing a new Model S or a new Model X, which of course don't have unlimited supercharging anymore. I have a bunch of other things too. It's also available to Canadian Tesla owners. It's 7,000 Canadian instead of 5,000 US. So it's an interesting deal because as pure value, $5,000 is good for unlimited supercharging. Like you need to supercharge a lot to get to 5,000. So unless you're a taxi service or anything like that, it would be a good deal. But at the same time, Tesla is known for not giving the best trading value on their own cars. That might have changed a little bit lately with the prices coming down a little bit on the broader market. So Tesla doesn't have the same competition that he's used to in the used car market for their own cars again. So you have to factor that in. So is it 5,000 on a good trade-in deal or 5,000 extra on a bad trading deal? So those things are extremely different, of course. Also, it's just I don't see like when I saw that, of course, my head was like, can I get a new Model S? Can I exchange my Model S for a new one? But at the same time, like the Model S from now that you can buy is not the same Model S that you that's like set you bought one for back in the day, the Model S 40. How much did you pay for that?
I think it was 57,000, and then you get 7,500 tax back. So it was under 50,000.
Okay, under 50,000. So that's basically half the cost of the base Model S right now. So my point is, it's not the same buyers. Like if you're someone that has an unlimited supercharger Model S or X, let's stick to Model S. You're not necessarily the same kind of car buyer that would buy a Model S today, because the Model S today starts at $95,000. Of course, Seth's example as a Model S 40 that lasted, like they sold like a few thousand of them and stopped real quick. but like even like a Model S 70 or 75 that they used to sell, that was a $75,000 car. It's different than a $95,000 car. It's a $25,000 difference. It's not necessarily the same buyers. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, it's been 10 years. There's been some inflation, but yeah, I agree.
But still, I'll be curious to see if the deal works. If you're actually someone that actually is taking that deal, I'd like to know about it. Know your thinking. That would make for interesting insights. All right. In terms of other pricing changes this week, we again saw some slight changes to Model S and Model 3 and Model Y. Model 3, the base Model 3 went up again. So after it went up 2 times before since the big price drops in January, went up $500 again. Now it starts at $43,000. And the Model Y, only the performance version changed, so that's not that big of a deal. And it increased. So decrease of the Model 3 base, increase on the Model Y performance, again, because it's just Model Y is selling a lot better now. Now it starts at $59,000. All right. All right. This was also a big story, kind of an ongoing story this week about the unionization effort at Gigafactory New York. We learned about it on Monday. So on Monday, it was announced that on Tuesday. On Tuesday, a bunch of Tesla employees, led by organizers from the I don't have it in this article, but it's the one that were behind the Starbucks stores. United Workers, I think. Yeah, United Workers. So a bunch of Tesla employees, 25 of them to be precise, I think, form an organizing committee to push a unionization effort at Gigafactory New York. Those were specifically employees on the Autopilot data annotation program. So there's about 800 of them that worked at the factory, and all they do is basically annotate data that comes in from images and video from the Tesla Autopilot fleet. So it's a very monotonous job, and and then they wanted better pay, more job security, because Tesla has been threatening to automate the entire system for a while. They have auto data annotation, auto data labeling, and so that's basically threatened their jobs. And also they want less monitoring at work. They claim that they were being monitored to a degree that it would discourage them to take bathroom breaks. So that's what we learned on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday night, though, late that night, we learned that these same employees filed a complaint with the U.S. National Labor Relations Board, claiming that Tesla just fired the next day, so literally the next day after they announced the union effort, the dozens of employees at the plant that worked in the Autopilot data annotation, including what now, like in the complaint, they were not clear, but now it sounds like it was just one employee that was linked to the unionization effort. So the complaint was filed based on the basis that they claim it was a retaliation for the union push, the union drive. Tesla didn't comment on the story because, of course, they don't respond to journalists anymore. But as the story picked up some steam, the next day Tesla released a blog post last night, basically, I think. Last night, where it defended itself against the claims with a chronology of events, basically. And I'm not going to go into the whole thing of it because we're already late in the show and we have a bunch of other things to discuss. But Tesla claimed that in December, the latest performance review were due. So they did the performance review in December, and the managers were already told to lay off a percentage of what they call the low performing employees. And those people were identified, did they say? Were identified February 3rd, so a whole week before the union push was made public. So Tesla claimed they didn't know about the union push, and the employees that were going to be fired were already identified on February 3rd, a whole week before. And then from the 3rd, the layoff were already planned for the 12th, the week of the 12th. So basically, Tesla's argument is that the layoffs were planned, the employees were selected before the union drive, and the layoff had nothing to do with the union drive. And only one of the 27 employees impacted in the group of the data annotation labors was related to the union campaign. So that's Tesla's argument. Obviously, it's not a great look. The timing looks extremely bad.
Right.
Normally, I would be all over this, and I'd be like, I'm not very suspect. A big corporation doing that, a corporation that has an history of not liking unions and all that. But
Which
in
is
this,
being nice. Like they
yeah,
actively hate unions.
yeah, exactly. But to be fair, actively hate UAW though, like the Auto
Right.
Workers Union, which has its own extremely horrible history. To be fair, so
Mhm.
so there's reason to hate them. So this is a different union, but yeah, they have a bad history with union. And after saying all that, I have to give Tesla the benefit of the doubt here because this actually matched something that we reported in December. In December, we reported Tesla was planning a new wave of layoff in Q1. And we reported that in December. Tesla says that the managers were being made aware in December. So I'm putting two and two together, and it sounds like we learned that as the managers were informed, like you're gonna have to lay off some people in Q1, and this is basically what happened there. So
Well, I would say this was probably something Tesla can prove, on the books and maybe some emails, but like it does, have a look like, hey, oh, you want to unionize? We're just laying off 30 people right now. Not that 30 people is a huge amount, but like, the timing is interesting. And, we know Tesla hates unions. We know in auto workers in particular. We know that, I guess one of the people was one of the people involved at the union drive, but who knows what the scenarios behind the scenes. I will say like 27 people, that seems very small. Like, I don't know how many people are employed at
about
Buffalo.
800.
Yeah. So I guess it's kind of a small group compared to like,
But it's still growing. That's the thing. So
right.
that was one of Tesla's other argument. The group is still growing. We're still hiring. It was just firing the low performer. Now, the employee in question that was fired, that was linked to the union drive, said that she was actually commended for her performance recently after coming back from a break because of COVID and then something else that wasn't clear.
Oh,
So I,
she went off on COVID. She probably should get fired for that.
but it was something else after COVID. It was COVID and then something else happened.
Yeah.
But then she said that she came back and she was overperforming after she came back. I don't like. I feel like that should be pretty easy to prove if that was in writing or whatever. So
Right.
like we should be able to find out who's lying and whatnot. But I don't know. It's so far I have to. I think Tesla proved their argument a lot better, a lot more detailed than the union push. So we'll see. But at the same time, the union push says that the layoffs help them because now that employees are even more nervous and they are joining the union drive in droves. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, we have a few more news items to discuss this week. Not that much, and then we're gonna take your questions, guys. So if you guys have any questions, put them in the comment section right now. We're gonna get to them in just a few minutes. But right now, we want to say a few words about our sponsor, which is SAE International this week, and specifically their WCX conference coming in April.
Right. This week's episode is sponsored by SAE International, hosts of the WCX World Congress Experience event. For 2023, WCX is set to return to Detroit from April 18th through the 20th at Huntington Place. As the largest technical mobility event in North America, WCX brings together thousands of engineers, suppliers, mobility professionals to exchange ideas, discuss today's challenges, and build powerful relationships to move your career and the industry forward. Join the global mobility community in the Motor City this April to stay up to date on the latest technological advances, participate in roundtable discussions, and network with the brightest minds in the industry. Gain a competitive advantage and meet the people sharing the shape of mobility. Visit wcx.sae.org to register now. Oh, I lost your audio, Fred.
No, it's me.
Okay.
I thought I just unmuted myself, but I didn't click fully. All right, thank you, SE International, for sponsoring this week's episode of the Electric Podcast. Moving on from Tesla news, Ford had a big announcement this week, though they kind of already hinted to it a few times in the past. But it is this new factory in partnership with CATL and the big, well, I mean, it's already big news that it's a $3.5 billion battery factory in the US by the biggest battery manufacturer in the world, China, CATL. But the big difference, the surprising news to a degree, is that it's going to be LFP, iron phosphate battery cells that they're going to use. You went there for the announcement, Seth. Any kind of highlights you want to discuss?
Yeah, I mean it's a big deal. So Ford is going to try to make what was the number? I think 400,000 vehicles in 2026.
Yeah.
And so they're making 2 million EVs in 2026, which is a pretty big ramp. That's what Tesla's making this year, theoretically. So not in the grand scheme of things, they're not expecting to pass Tesla or anything, but they're still ramping up pretty strongly, but like 2 or 3 years behind Tesla. But 400,000 of those vehicles are going to get LFP batteries from this plant. So that's a 20% of their 2 million EVs are going to be using LFP batteries. And so, as we know, things about LFP, and Ford was very they explained that the advantages and disadvantages of LFP pretty well. And you can scroll down. There's like a little graphic they used, but energy, power, and cold weather performance, nickel, cobalt, manganese, the batteries that we're using now are much better. And then the lithium iron phosphate are better because they're lower cost. Iron is obviously much more plentiful than cobalt and manganese, and the lifespan of LFP batteries, they can take more cycles. So that means they're great not just for standard range vehicles, but they're also great for stationary storage. And I'm actually kind of surprised Ford is the first one to announce a U.S. Manufacturing of this. You would think Tesla would be right there. They've been using LFP batteries from CATL in their standard range vehicles for quite some time. So, props to Ford for at least, getting out there with this stuff. The other thing I thought was kind of interesting is Ford isn't going to geo fence their LFP battery vehicles at all, but there is going to be some degradation beyond nickel, cobalt, manganese. So like a car that would normally get like a 30% hit, in very cold weather, an LFP battery will get a 40% hit kind of thing. So that's
Which is a
something
big difference.
Yeah, it's a big difference. And it's something that the engineers have to kind of figure out how to keep the battery warm and what percentage of electricity to use on what. The other thing is Ford didn't, and Tesla's never done this either, and probably because they sell a lot of traditional batteries, but they didn't talk about the safety of LFP. But LFP is a lot safer, and Ford did say that they were saving some weight and some space in the battery pack because it's not reinforced as much because LFP batteries don't need the reinforcement. So the energy density is kind of offset a little bit by the pack density because they don't have to do as much packing, I guess, or as much armor, I guess, around the batteries. But it looks good. Obviously, some Republican senators, Marco Rubio, came out and said, what are we talking to China for? China is obviously the leader in LFP batteries, although they were kind of invented in the U.S. So it's kind of an interesting situation.
But U.S. Large scale manufacturing, not the forte for a few decades.
Right.
Just not. I mean, all the big players. It's CATL, China, Panasonic, Japan, LG, Korea, SK Innovation, which I guess that's also like, we didn't mention it, but that's part of like what makes it big news is Ford is like kind of divesting from just being partnership with SK Innovation, again Korean, with this CATL partnership. Now it's like a two battery partner, much like Tesla actually, because Tesla is also partner with CATL, but also partner with Panasonic and LG. And some
and as far as LFP is concerned, the only game in town is CATL and BYD. So
correct, yeah. Tesla I guess is also partnering with BYD on CATL.
Right. Interesting times.
So comment from Greg Paul in here that actually I think is fair. LFP batteries in Texas will work just fine. For pickup is number one in Texas. Uh, but I don't know, like that, I guess that's not what he meant. But what I just realized is like actually Tesla is working, I think, to build their own 4680 with LFP technology too,
Is that right?
or at least uh, not less nickel and cobalt in it, so like closer to an LFP chemistry.
Hmm.
They want it to be like what do you call it? Agnostic, like chemistry agnostic.
Hmm.
So maybe that Tesla is actually working to build in the U.S. also. They're just not, because Tesla has always been very weird about like they have their production in Fremont, they have their production in Texas being deployed right now of their own battery cell, but they are not going into details of the chemistry that they are using.
Yeah, and Ford was also very cognizant of the current tensions between the U.S. and China, and they were like, we're going to be buying CATL batteries from China starting at the end of the year. That will go into the Mustang Mach-E, and then next year that will go into the standard range Ford F-150, and that can be problematic. But once we build them in the U.S., even using CATL's technology, do you say CATL or CATL or both? Or
I always say CATL, I think.
Anyway, once the factory is on U.S. soil, China can't do anything about it. They can't pull the rights. They can't pull anything. So that's what Ford is kind of, building it in the U.S. for.
Yeah, for the people that have those concerns, like it's like those build in America concerns, I have to say that Mach-E with LFP cells is kind of a bad look because it's like it's a Mexican built American car with Chinese batteries.
Yeah.
So it's like all the what the Republican hates basically. All right, moving on. The Genesis 2023 JV70 is the first Genesis electric vehicle built in the U.S., assembled in the U.S. Just got this price release. It's going to start at $66,000. Again, this is kind of it's all the EGMP. Is that EGMP
Yep.
platform from Hyundai. So all the same spec that you can expect from like the Ioniq's vehicles. So all the good stuff. It's all in there in a little more sleek and luxurious packaging, thanks to Genesis, which is again the luxury brand of Korea's Hyundai. And what do we have more? Detailed pricing here. So only two versions available: Advance and Prestige, both with all-wheel drive, 65,850 and 70,665 and 650. So the both motors are 160 front and rear, a 77.4 kilowatt battery pack. So basically only the bigger version that's available for the Ioniq 5. Can we really compare that to the R1S? I don't know. Because in terms of pricing here, we decided to compare it to a few SUV, but I don't know if the R1S, like how big is the JV7?
It's not. It's not even close.
Yeah, it's not really big.
I mean, it's probably the best comparison is the GV60, which is a little bit smaller and very similar in pricing.
Yeah, agreed. All right, finally, before we get into your comments in just a second, we discussed real quick the first images of the Ram 1500 REV, the first electric pickup truck from Ram, that has been like kind of unveiled at the Super Bowl this week. So they started taking reservation. They said that they already sold out a reservation, but they don't say how many that they took. So it's
pointless.
Pointless information. Because we know, like the Cadillac Lyric, for example, we were sold out in 19 seconds, and then we delivered 120 units last year. So not really impressing. But yeah, the first images are here. Are you gonna see that? Yeah, you're gonna see that if I push that. So it looks a lot more like the current Ram truck rather than the concept that was the Revolution.
Which is a bummer
concept.
because that was really cool.
Yeah, it was cool. But it's not bad either. Though the front end kind of hurts me a little bit for some reason. Like the fact that the headlights are like a good like 6-7 inch behind the front bumper. With the hood being like curved on top. does. I don't know. It doesn't work for me. The front hand.
Yeah, the hood seems very high, like it would be hard to see over it. Like
Yeah,
if you've
almost.
got like a kid walking in front of your car, you're gonna just run them over.
So we just have the images. We don't have the specs on this.
No, I don't think they've revealed much there.
And the specs are supposed to beat all the competition and be revolutionary. That's what Ram said last week. So, nope, no specs on this. All right. Well, that's about it for us. Let's jump into the comments.
All right, jumping in. All right, real quick, I'm going to plug the other podcast. What is the other guy's name who usually writes and reviews e-bikes and scooters? I've never seen him live on your platform. Dude, check out the Wheelie podcast. If you're into bikes and stuff, check it out. Micah Toll and myself will be on there. All right.
It might be talking since Micah is always live, is always on this channel. We might be talking about Mikey, I guess. I don't know.
Oh yeah, Mikey as well. Scooter sometimes does it.
Yeah, Scooter does that too.
All right, Dan Oberste. The ratio 1:8 of chargers opening sounds like Tesla is opening the far right station so that cars could have to pull in forward and to the right of where Tesla would so they don't block others. That's an interesting point. Tesla could just make the magic docks on the outside to chargers so that people don't block and there's more ways to get in. That's
there's a bunch of solutions that they can put here, or also automakers can just standardize where they put the damn charge connector on it, which where Tesla's connector is the one that makes the most sense. Like the people that put it in the front of the car, literally like in the front hand of the car, that's just ridiculous. And then you have the front side of the car. I also don't think that's the best approach. I think back driver's side makes the most sense.
All right, EB1888 says, question, when will Tesla make it easier to see all the rates at all the times? I think he's talking about the charger rates. I don't even look at the rates because what am I going to do? Like,
yeah.
So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they might have to at some point, because I know, like, in terms of fuel, there's laws about it in terms of like you need to show the cost of the fuel ahead of time. So there might be something that's going to happen there. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if regulations get involved. But in terms of like seeing the rates, I mean, the Find Us website, you see them, and then you also see them on your in the app. I don't know about, we probably see them in the app, but you see them in the navigation system in the car too. So in your navigation system, you just click on this nearby supercharger and you can see the rate there. So it's not like Tesla is hiding it or anything.
All right, moving on. Nick Cedar, question, any information about Workhorse and if they could regain the Postal Service EV contract? Well, I don't know about the EV contract. We've seen some actual Oshkosh EV post trucks zooming around. So what do you think about Workhorse?
To be completely honest with you, I haven't followed Workhorse in a minute.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's up with them. I might, if I get some time soon, I'll take a peek.
That's the Lordstown one, right? No, Lordstown is the Lordstown one.
Yeah, I mean, Lordstown was kind of split off of Workhorse. Like, it's kind of spin off of it.
That's kind of near that train derailment in Ohio.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
All right. Real Team Me, is Canada going to be left out in the cold as Europe and US now have supercharger access?
Well, not now in terms of the US. I would assume that, as soon as it starts happening in the US, Canada's going to follow not too far behind, I think.
All right, Greg Poland.
Why not?
Question, my Model Y is scheduled to be delivered between March 13th and March 31st. Do you think I will have hardware for the Model Y? So the new hardware in the Model Y?
No clue. I cannot. I've been trying to confirm that, like especially with the leak this week and everything. I poked all my sources, like especially for the Model X. But obviously, we want to know for every vehicle. I wouldn't be surprised if we have an announcement on March 1st at the Investor Day.
All right, Mark Webb asks, as a result of the NHTSA FSD recall, do you think that Tesla might take away broad access to FSD? The issues raised by NHTSA have plagued FSD for years, so a quick fix seems unlikely. That's kind of my question as well. Like, what is Tesla going to do to kind of alleviate NHTSA's concerns? And, will Tesla like offer a refund for people who don't get it, or what's the story?
I mean, we've been saying for a while that Tesla should just like they would get so much goodwill around FSD if they just you're not satisfied with your experience with FSD Beta. Here's a refund. Um, it would I don't even know like the take rate on that would be that high, honestly.
Yeah,
I would
a
think
lot of
maybe
people
like,
still believe in it.
yeah, so I would think like maybe like 20% or something like that, which it's gonna be a big hit. It's gonna hurt Tesla. Like that quarter is gonna look bad because they're gonna have to readjust. Uh,
But it's a
like
quarter. It's not like the end of the
yeah,
company.
it's not. It's at worst a few billion, not even. So yeah, they should just do that just to they would get a lot of pressure off their backs. I think is a lot of the people that are affected by it. Like they have the option. Like, all right, you take it back, or or you stick to you believe us. Basically, you believe that we will deliver someday.
Yep. All right, Philip Lavoie. Question: with Ford soon to report Ford Blue and Ford Model E separately, do you think Legacy Auto, GM, Stellantis, VW, Nissan, Merc, etc., are going to spin off their EV businesses in the future? Thoughts on that?
I mean, how split off is Ford Blue with the rest? Like that's my biggest question. Like I know that there's different teams and all that, but it's still very much Ford. Um, I do like that the Ford actually they're going with like new model. Like the Mach-E is a brand new model. The F-150 is a F-150, but I mean, if there was one vehicle that I wanted to see like getting electrified, it would be probably the F-150. So I'm happy with that. But for the most part, like I don't like when you have like a Kona and you have the Kona EV, for example. So that I don't like. So I think there's value in separating your brand.
Yeah.
Ford's approach is like kind of in between. I feel like so. It might be like a good compromise. Especially the Ford brand is extremely strong and has been strong for like 100 years at this point. So yeah, they can stick with that. But GM, which already goes extremely granular with their brands like the Cadillac and the Chevy and name it, GMC and all that. Um, they might benefit from rebranding or well, no, what they're doing. Like, for example, with Cadillac, they are making it an all-electric brand by was it 2025, 2030? So there's a bunch of different way to go about it. But yeah, I would like to see more companies just go like, yeah, I mean, this brand is now an electric brand.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to see like that separation at the dealership. Like
Yeah.
they should have like an EV area where people only deal with EVs. They don't like if you want an EV, you go to the EV area. Because right now, you typically go into a dealership and they steer you away from EVs.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ron King. Oh wait, let me really quickly address this one. Why does everyone have to be electronic on an EV? A manual latch for a glove box works just fine. Maybe I'm officially a 40-year-old boomer.
Yeah.
I have the same feeling. Glove box, and also, I got the Chevy Bolt, and I love the fact that the hatchback is just manual, and I don't push a button and I don't wait, and whatever. And I get it. Like some people have
But the
Cisco.
glove box is just Tesla, though, right? Because you see, like EVs in
No,
general.
Cadillac Lyric is even worse. Like
Oh yeah.
you have to find it. Yeah, it's just dumb. It's so
Yeah,
dumb.
for the glove box, I have to admit it's pushing it a little bit too much. Not that I use my glove box that often.
Right, that's the thing. You don't use it that often, but it just come on, just make a latch. I guess I don't know. We're all boomers. All right, Ron King question: are either of
Talk
you
for
going to
yourself.
Investor Day? Okay. Or to the annual meeting in May? We have not yet been invited. I don't know
No,
about you.
I don't think we are on the white list. We're back on the white list with Tesla's events just yet. I mean, we just got deblocked last week, like unblocked
We're
last week.
making progress.
So we're working towards that. Next step is going to be. I mean, I've been pushing so hard for bringing back a PR department, and I think we would do so much better with a PR department than like whatever is the situation right now. So maybe if that comes back, we can start getting back to like.
Which is weird to say because I feel like when there was a Tesla PR department, we were always complaining about them. But
That's a good point. Like the grass is always greener on the other
right,
side, but it's we complain, but I mean it's the nature of it. Like we are investigative
right.
journalists,
We're pushing
investigative
back on
media,
those
so we're
guys.
pushing the buttons and everything. So and they fight back. But I think the good ones at Tesla, for the most part, the good PR people, they appreciated our work, even though they still butted heads with us at times. So
Right, and often we would talk to them after they left Tesla, and they'd be like,
yeah,
"Holy crap! But that was a nutty thing."
yeah,
Right,
and everything would be easier than dealing with Elon, to be
right,
honest.
right. Yeah, it's usually like they take a couple months of just like going to Bali and sitting on a chair and decompressing. But if anybody has any invites to either one of those events and wants to share them with
Yeah,
us, we'll happily be your plus one, or
for sure.
use a fake ID to get in as you. All right, Greg Poland, question: I noticed my Tesla app under service that I can get a CCS adapter retrofit. Are they now allowing the 2018 Model 3 a CCS adapter retrofit? I think they've always offered that as I think it's $200 or $300.
Yeah, but it was not supposed to happen. Like the actual taking the appointment and everything. That might be new. That
Oh,
might
okay.
be. So like, they always said like the appointments are going to be available in 2023. So yeah, I guess we're in 2023 now. So yeah, that might be already happening. Might be
Yeah.
just in certain markets for certain vehicles, though. I don't know if it's available for everyone just yet.
Yeah, so I have a 2018 Model 3, and I was actually thinking about getting that, but I have a CHAdeMO adapter. So if I'm in a bad situation, there's a good chance I can find a CHAdeMO charger, at least for the next couple of years. So I think I'm probably just going to stick there. And then I have a CCS adapter for the Model Y. It's newer. All right, moving on. How long does Tesla have to complete these updates? I know Takata was given years to replace all the airbags that were killing people.
Yeah, that's a fair
Uh,
point. But
yeah.
again, it doesn't really apply here. Like I think it's like more of a warning shot than anything from this that happened this week. I don't think that's going to be the approach that they're going to take going forward if they have more issues with FSD Beta. I just don't.
All right, we got to kind of get over here.
Yeah.
We got a lot. Question: Tesla have stopped a Tesla energy plan for Powerwall owners in the UK. What are your thoughts on this, and do you think it will ever return to the UK?
Yeah, I think so. I think because that's Tesla's energy plan with Octopus. It's called Octopus
Yeah.
Energy, I think. And obviously, Tesla is now working on Tesla Electrek. I think that's where things going to go in the future. Um, so probably you're going to see Tesla discontinuing those programs with third parties like that and launching their own sooner rather than later. Because the UK has a decent amount of power walls too, so there could be a virtual power plant / Tesla Electric deal going on.
All right, this is a question for you because I gave up my Tesla before idle fees happened. But do people with unlimited supercharging get charged idle fees?
Oh, I mean, I've always been good about that. It's not about the fees; it's about liberating the station. So I've never tested it, but I would assume that yeah, you get because you unlimited free supercharging, not unlimited free parking. That's the idea behind it.
All right, let's see. Greg Poland comment: LFP batteries in Texas will work just fine for
Yeah.
pickup. Oh yeah, we talked about that. Moving on. I think we'll go to the last one. I ordered the CCS retrofit this month for my 2019 Model 3, but was nixed by Tesla service thus far. So maybe they're getting a little ahead of themselves with the retrofit.
Yeah, might just be an issue of parts available at the service center and also just time at the service center. Because if they open up for a certain region, maybe a lot of people are trying to get in, and that happens. But thanks a lot for everyone that stick on to the show. And sorry again for being late. Sorry again for the audio not being ideal because of this joke of a mic that I have right now. But we did our best with it. I hope you appreciated the show. We appreciate you for listening. And if you did like the show, please give us a thumbs up, a like, whatever on your app you're watching, because we're live everywhere on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and all that good stuff. If you're listening and that on your audio podcast only, which is most of you, we appreciate you. We would appreciate if you can give us a 5-star review, because that helped the show tremendously. We read them all. We had a great one last week that we appreciated a lot. So every one of those help. And that's it. We're going to see you same time, same place. Well, not same time, on time next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.